As I stated in the presentation, to get the most accurate mask, you need to make a selection. Like in the case of this photo, we can see the hairs on the mane of the giraffe and on the top of their heads sticking into the background. Would certainly be challenging to try to paint a mask to account for all that. So what we're going to do is go to our quick selection tool. What it does is it uses edge detection, contrast between the edges, to make its selection. Now, we can either do select the subject or the background, whichever is easier, because you can always inverse your mask to the part of the photo that you want. Now here it looks to me that the background would be easier to select, and that's going to be a matter of experience. The more that you do, more photos you see this on, you can make that judgment. So let's start by, and it made a great selection already because there was good contrast here. Let's try it here. That's another good selection. Okay, you can see here that the dark hair did not have enough contrast for the background, and so it kind of made a screwy selection, but that always happens. We'll show you how to fix that. So let's do a selection here. Again, the spots, the same thing. Okay, and down right here it had a problem. To fix these selection issues, we can still use our quick select tool. If you notice in the center of the quick select tool there's a plus, and that means that it's automatically set to add anything to a selection. However, what we want to do is take away these areas from the selection. So you would hold down the Alt key on the PC or Option key on the Mac, and you can see that the plus sign has turned into a minus sign. So like for example, this spot here, we could go in and coax that line back down. I did it a little too far, so I can let go of the Alt key and do that. And I could do that there. And we have a little spot here. I could do that. So we could go around and using the add or subtract from the selection to straighten it out. Also, don't worry about the refinement on this yet to all the little hairs. You're not going to be able to do that with the quick selection tool. We'll have to do something else. But let me also show you another way to view the selection and to make corrections of it. There is what they call a quick mask mode that will show the mask that you are creating and not the selection, because sometimes the marching ants, is what they call these crawling lines here, a little hard to determine what they're selecting. So if you press the keyboard shortcut key of Q, the red overlay here is what is going to be our mask, or what is being masked out. So you can see that our mask is intruding here on the mouth of the giraffe and on this hair on the top of his head. Just like the previous lesson where we could paint on a mask, you can paint on this mask here to adjust the selection. So for example, we need to select our paintbrush tool, and then depending on what we're doing, we're either going to paint on more mask or paint less mask. So if we wanted to paint the mask out, we would paint with white. So my foreground color over here is set to black, so I would use the shortcut key X to switch that. And then come back here to the mask that's intruding on my giraffe and start painting. Okay, you can see I've painted that out. Let's do the same thing here to the mouth. Okay, let's hit the Q again, and you can see the result on the selections. This one didn't quite get it. Let me go back to my quick select tool, hit the Alt, and move that back out. All right, up here, I'm going to move this so it's closer to the edge. Okay. Now what I would do is refine the edges so that we can get these small details like the hairs in our mask. But before I do that, I want to show you two things. One, I did mention that you can inverse your selection. Let's say it was just easier to select the background, but you really wanted to mask the giraffes here. You can go up to the Select menu and select Inverse, and now the giraffes are selected. If we hit our Q, you can see that they are masked out. Or you can use the keyboard shortcut, which is Shift-Control-I, and now we're back to the background. Now, one more thing before we go on to refining the edge. After we've done all this work, I want to show you that if you use Photoshop CC, there's some magic that would have made this a whole lot quicker. So let's do Control D, which is deselects everything we just did. And look up here at the toolbar, and there is something called Select Subject. So let's click that, and it'll work for a second. And it's doing the detecting of the edges, and look what it did. It did a great selection. There's a little bit of weirdness here, but it got close on the hair here. It got the mouth just fine, and it was that quick. So that may be worth the price of Photoshop CC right there. So let's just correct this a little bit, and hit Alt here and get this back down. All right, we've got a pretty good selection. It doesn't have to be perfect, because in the next step, on the next video, we're going to show you how to refine that edge.